Hello and welcome to today's content, which will be talking about Varush since he has also been released today. And yeah, without further ado, let's do this unit analysis and see what goodies he has to bring. Here we are as for his main job abilities, which is going to be Blade Soul, which is brand new, which is slash type damage, but it's going to be targeting the spirit because it's magic damage, that is slash type. Just keep that in mind. So as a base unit, he's going to have Magic Buster, Sword Song Formation, Bamboo Splitter, Banishing Barrier, Counterman Slash, and his limit break is going to be Blade of the Searing Winds. For his EX upgrades specifically, he's going to have Sword Song Formation turn into Sacred Sword Song Formation, where he's going to additionally get more spirit for himself specifically. From here, he also has Revivifying Barrier, which is not only going to give him the magic barrier for the amount of HP damage taken, but also to grant himself regen, so it's going to be pretty nice for him just in terms of survivability. And his EX ability, lastly, is going to be Spirit Stealer. As you can see here, it's going to absorb 30% of the damage down, and it is AoE. As you can see here, it can hit multiple targets, so it is possible for him to heal a lot of HP if it does hit multiple units. For his sub-jobs, the Blade Soul sub-job is going to have Slate Wiper and Brave Breaker. I will say here specifically, Slate Wiper can be potentially extremely good if it critical hits, and same with Brave Breaker in more long fights that are going to be more sustain based against physical based units in general. Lowering the bravery is going to significantly lower their potential damage output, so it can be very effective if used properly. From here, he also has this Cuddle Down sub-job, which means he does have nimble movement and unavailable pain most importantly, and his extra ability he's going to get is going to be Bursting Light, so he does have options to magic attack types as well as some good AoE or single target from here. And most importantly, he does have the White Mage sub-job, and I will say he does have a full life. This is huge. Full life is very, very nice and effective, so yeah, him having that on a sub-job means he does have potential to be a good support. Here we are for his resistances and passes. For damage types, 15% to slash, 5% to pierce, -5% to strike, 5% to missile, and 0% to magic. As you can see here, overall he actually has really solid resistances, most importantly slash, and I know magic is not there, however I will explain why it does not matter too much in this scenario, and I will explain that in the next slide. But for now, he does have 0% AoE and 0% single target. At level 120, master ability included, he has 0 defense and 7 spirit. While you're thinking is, wow, 7 spirit is not too much, we'll get there, don't worry. So his resistances to statuses, 50% to slow and berserk. Berserk is huge. This does mean that King Mont has a much significantly lower chance to berserk cheese, specifically Varush, so this is nice to see. The 10% to silence is not bad. You do wish it was higher, however he does have a little bit of silence resistance, so it is possible for him to still be silenced, but this is still nice regardless. His master ability is going to be obviously the Elemental Wind, as well as giving himself some spirit and even more HP. As you can see with the master ability included, that's why he has a base of 7 spirit. For his passives, now here we go. The recommended portion is going to be Blade Soul Lore, not only to give himself agility, but also Spirit Penetration, because that's what he's going to be mainly using for his DPS. For a more bruiser-ish slash survival type, Mind Body Unity is insanely good. Not only does he have a good base HP already, a good amount of HP in general, increasing his spirit by 12 even further means he can get a base of 19 spirit without having to give up too much. If you do want to get Varush to be a little bit more DPS-y, then he does have magic up level 1 in this situation if you wanted to. For Niche and Flex, March of the Saints, potentially good only in tower or super niche situation that you almost never really need it. And then Earth Spirit's Blessing, which is kind of like a watered down Mind Body's Unity, because against Earth units in general, since Varush is Wind type already, he doesn't really need that additional Earth resistance. He can actually work off the HP percent for Mind Body Unity even more. I mean, obviously you could stack the 2 if you want insanely high spirit, but just keep in mind if you're stacking one thing that doesn't cover too much of everything, then you are opening yourself up to more variety of stuff. But I mean, if you do hit a certain team with that situation, you could obviously wall them out very well. It's obviously up to you what you want. I'm just going off what I would recommend in my situation. For reaction ability specifically, he does have Preemptive Revenge. I will say, while this sounds really good because it is a slash type but magic damage, it is only one space out, and it does say increases damage as HP increases. I still cannot recommend this because it does have a good base chance of 30% chance of happening. However, because it is only one tile out, they have to be literally right next to Varush for it to activate, for a chance for it to activate, I can't really recommend it. Since he is more of a bruiser type, I would either recommend Regenerator or Steel Ephemeral Form. In my situation, I would recommend Steel Ephemeral Form in my usage of Varush. And here we are at Varush's rating out of 5. And lately I've been rating units a little bit more harsher, but I think I have to because I can't keep letting units be like, oh wait, they can be niche and like decently good at this and that. Like, I can't keep making up excuses. I just have to go off more on what I can see it as well as just stating out the facts on what I said. So yeah, in the end, Varush is a 3.5 out of 5 in my opinion. I do think he is decently good as a unit, however he falls short in many situations and is outclassed in different situations, which I will be explaining. But regardless, before that, let's talk about the pros. First off, he's able to become a very beefy anti-magic bruiser with like a good amount of damage. He's not going to be one-shotting like many units at all like Elena can, however he still has a good amount of damage. He has good amount of HP, he has decent magic stat, he has good agility, and his passive is able to get him to a very high amount of agility. I believe with just his passive at level 120, he can get up to 70 agility, so that is pretty nice. Slate Wiper is able to dispel buffs and haste with a crit and has long range. This is extremely useful against like specifically tanks or like setups that are really reliant on buffs. This is very nice for him to do. Brave Breaker is very good against physical damage dealers. As I said before, if he hits someone with this and they get their bravery lowered before they're able to like attack as a physical damage dealer, you can see a huge difference in damage dealt. Like, you can even test it yourself if you want to see how much bravery actually kind of matters in terms of the damage modification. So yeah, this is pretty nice to see that he has access to this. He has access to both slash and magic attack types with good damage modifiers. They are all going to be hovering around either 170, 165% or 200%. A little bit higher on Kododama's end because of bursting light and a few other situations there, but yeah, he does have good modifiers for damage. Since he is able to use heavy armor, this allows him to use the knight armor if you want to be really super magic tanky to insanely boost his high spirit stat already. So you can really abuse being anti-magic with him. He does have a magic barrier that breaks off only, it can only break off either barrier breaks or after 3500 magic damage is taken. I didn't write it there specifically, but it has to be magic damage. So his barrier is pretty interesting in that regard. His overall resistances are actually very good. Even though he has 0% magic attack resistance, it's balanced around his very high spirit, as well as he can easily raise his magic attack resistance, so it's not too much to worry about. He can reduce reaction abilities to 0 with Countermand Slash, and it has a 30% extra chance to hit for the accuracy, so this is pretty nice to hit, to have. His Kododama subjob opens up magic attack types like Unavailable Pain against evasion units. It can enable him for mobility for nimble movement and bursting light for a huge amount of AoE, so yeah, he does have multiple options there. His Y-Mate subjob enables him to actually be a decent support. His subjob has full life, which is insanely good, so Varush can be like a backline support if you really wanted him to do that. I'm not gonna say he's gonna outclass like Ayaka, Yuna, and all them, however he does have options for full life at least, so he won't be completely useless. His strongest hitting abilities are gonna be single target, however he does still have decent AoE abilities, and even more so with Kododama as a subjob, so just keep that in mind. His auto attack is recorded to be magic based slash damage just like his abilities according to his information. We'll have to see for 100% confirmation, but if this is true, this is pretty nice because he does, since he's not hitting towards a defensive stat, if he's able to just make use of this because he has high magic in general, this would be pretty cool. Now let's talk about the cons of Varush and why I ended up rating him a 3.5 out of 5. First off, he has no base defense. He's good against magic damage in general, only if the Spirit and Bruiser build is being used, but only resistances against physical damage. So he is good against magic damage in general because of his high Spirit. However, as much as I said before, if you do not raise his Spirit with his passives in that Bruiser build I talked about earlier, then he's going to actually still take significant damage from magic, even with his magic barrier. So you have to keep that in mind, because he is going to be a 97 faith unit if you want him to deal DPS. As a DPS unit, you will also have to forego the spirit and defenses if you want to reach mediocre levels of damage, so it really is better to build him as a bruiser. He has a lot more HP than you think, and like I said, if you get rid of his spirit, he's not only gonna be like still mediocre damage, but he's also gonna take an insanely larger amount of damage from magic in general. So just keep that in mind. He himself, he does not have any barrier breaks, he has no multi-hits, and he's unable to bypass mitigation for slash resistance as well as barriers. So keep that in mind. Generically good tanks already, like Dwayne and King Mont, do have slash resistance, so he's not going to be able to deal significant damage to them. He can still deal a decent amount, but he won't be one-shotting them anywhere close, and he won't be doing more damage than like a Helena in that regard. While Counterman Slash has a 30% chance to hit, extra chance, Varush's abysmally low like total and like base luck stat makes that 30% actually normalize his accuracy, so it's like a normal hitting ability than just having a higher chance of hitting. The difference between this and like Laswell has like Fatal Bloom that has like a 30% chance extra to hit, but Laswell has very high luck. So not only does Laswell have a higher like accuracy already, that 30% is going to have him be a very favorable chance to hit evasion units. Varush's situation is that he has very low luck, so even with the 30% like additional like add-on here for accuracy, it's not gonna make him have a favorable situation for hitting evasion units, which is really ironic. Considering this though, he does have unavoidable pain, but yeah, the 30% accuracy there is really kind of like, I would put a question mark. Just make it 100% hit or something instead. Now, without Sacred Sword Song's formation's crit rate buff, his dex and base crit rate is actually not high enough to have him consistently make critical hits. It makes some of his abilities not even work as intended because they need critical hits to like work off it, such as like Slate Wiper. It needs to critical hit for the dispel of buffs specifically. So yeah, it's really weird how they kind of make it more critical based, but he doesn't even have high enough crit rate. Like, it's really weird. Like, most snipers and like archers and gunners have very high dex, and that's why you could usually see them critting more than often. Varush is not exactly there, so I'm really confused why they would try to make him like forced into using Sacred Sword Song's formation as a buff over like having him use a barrier and still have good crit rate. So yeah, I don't like how they set up his situation for that. While he does have 100% hit rate, like I said, which is unavailable pain, it does exist. However, he does not have any extra benefits for his magic attack type modifiers. He has more slash damage in general in his kit overall, so it's like it's not gonna really benefit him too much. So it's not gonna really hit that hard. He does not start with high AP either. He's not like Elena at all, sadly. So he will need either bells or like at least 1 or 2 turns of buffs to do a decent amount of like AP gain, or have him be as like a support backline so he could do healing casting for AP. So he is viable for those situations. He's vulnerable to disable, stop, and paralysis, and still silence even despite 10%. So keep that in mind. He still is vulnerable to the more, I would say, more turn stopping situational status effects just in general. He won't be doing much damage if he does get hit by those. His most relevant hard-hitting abilities are extremely short range, as you saw in his ability preview and his main job. He must be either lined up or like close in range outside of his limit break if you want significant damage. And lastly, while Varush is a bruiser, lastly but not least, while Varush is a bruiser with a variety to his kit, his damage, potential survivability, and support tools are easily outclassed by other units if he does not build up his spirit with a bruiser build. And he can still die easily to Helena if he does not have like a good spirit. Like, as much as he's quote-unquote anti-magic, if he gets barrier broken with still 0% magic attack resistance and you did not raise up his spirit because you just wanted him to be DPS, Helena has a very good chance of almost one-shotting him with her barrier break, what is it, I believe, Devastation? So yeah, you really have to build him kind of like one way in terms of like defensively. Obviously, you could set him up to either be a DPS or support from his sub-jobs, but his physical like equipment build has to really rely on his spirit, and same with his passives. So yeah, that's why overall Varush is kind of like, I guess he's kind of like a jack of all trades, but not good at any, like not good enough for any of them if he wants to go against some of the meta like units right now. Like for example, if you want like a better support, Ayaka is way better, or if you want even Halloween Leela, who should be coming out soon, her EX is freaking insane. Like literally, I will say right now, I already know what H Leela's rating is because I did like a lot of research on it from the Japanese side of things. She is a 4.5 out of 5. So yeah, that's why I think Varush, if you are not planning for like Ayaka or not planning for specifically Halloween Leela, I guess you can like use Varush and not feel too bad about it. However, like I said, he is easily outclassed by better units because Gumi really likes to make limited slash seasonal slash collaboration units really strong compared to just base units in general, unless they're 100 cost, obviously. And now for his Team Chase rating, it's called the Polians of the Unrivaled, which is going to be an armor type, heavy armor type. It has a good amount of HP. Well, not good. It's alright. 6 defense and 14 spirit. As you can see, it's really like reliant on the spirit and has 8 crit rate, which is not too much, but it's not bad. The active, however, is going to be Mystic Conduct, and this is why I give it a 3 out of 5. It's a self-use TMR that can raise your faith. So if you want to do auto faith farming, if they can use heavy armor like this TMR specifically, you can raise faith like just auto. It's kind of like, it's very convenient and easy to use. That's why I have it here specifically. Obviously, you have to use heavy armor, which kind of like mitigates the usage amount of it. However, it's still there as a like an option for auto faith farming. And that's why in the end, I did rate Varush 3.5 out of 5. And because he is above a 3 rating, I do have another example set up for him and another slide. So yeah, let's get to it. And here we are at my example setup for Varush. Obviously, Mono Wind has extremely strong evasion units, and this is a setup I have for example. Obviously, 2B and Tifa are going to be kind of like the hard carries of the team, and Varush is going to be more like a finisher if like 2B or Tifa cannot finish the job. He's either going to be finishing the job or being support as a backline. I would specifically have him set up like this because like the Satan Katana for magic stats specifically, Titus' necklace for that good amount of spirit as well as magic attack resistance, and I have specifically, I think it's called the White Wolf's armor, which is Glacialis TMR because it can use heavy armor. Not only is this for the AP gain because he really needs AP gain if you want him to deal like more damage, he also gets that slash resistance, which is really going to help him in a lot of more generic matchups against Slash, so this is going to be helpful. Bahamut is here not only to raise his magic percentage stat, but also to increase his own damage with Human Killer, as well as magic resistance even more. So with this setup and Titus' necklace, he'll have a base of 25% magic attack resistance, even with his high amount of spirit, so he will take very little damage from Helena in general. His vision card specifically is going to be downtime. Not only is this able to capitalize off his like good amount of base HP already, it's also giving him a little bit of ice resistance so he doesn't get like immediately one punched by them. Additionally, it's also going to give him another 20% slash resistance, so he's really going to be really well off in terms of slash resistance. This is going to be like his setup is making him a more bruiser support type ish unit because he's not going to be out damaging 2B, he's not going to be out damaging Tifa, like not by a long shot. They're going to be doing significantly more damage compared to Varush's potential. Additionally, since he does not have good evasion and his luck stats are really low, these vision cards are really kind of just set up to boost specifically 2B and Tifa. Now, future stuff to consider. Halloween Leela, as I said before, is insanely good. Once she gets her EX, which should be returning soon, I hope I'm not wrong about that. But I looked at her kit already, she's going to be insanely good, a better support in general than Varush, and she has her potential for evasion literally mimics the same potential amount as Zazan. I think it's like 1, 2, or 3 evasion off from their potentials each. So it's crazy that she can have all that evasion in terms of survivability. She does have full life as well. She does insanely high damage with the Typhoon Vision card, which can also help the other 2 wind units because of the accuracy up. And she's just so versatile. Like her amount of support is even far better than Varush's. So yeah, I just have to say, if you plan to pull Halloween Leela at all, I don't think Varush will be a good investment right now, but Varush is not necessarily bad. I'm just saying he just is simply outclassed by Halloween Leela's because of what setup she has in terms of potential. Additionally, another future thing to consider for Varush, his best Esper for DPS will be Typhoon once Typhoon gets his 3-star, because it has slash attack up, wind attack up, and it even gives him a little bit of magic resistance. So in that situation, he can make use of all those benefits, and it's a magic type Esper, so he can get a lot of good benefits from that. And lastly, Ice DPS in general, physical damage or slash resistance tanks will be extremely effective against Varush. He doesn't have any slash penetration, which makes him really like liable to dealing not too much damage without much situational help for slash resistance. If he does not build slash resistance, Cloud, I already tested the damage. If you just work off only the base slash resistance from Varush, Cloud could one-shot him with a 7.2k like cross slash. Like he just immediately kills him. It's kind of crazy, but yeah, Cloud is just that strong in terms of physical like being. So you have to be worried about that situation. Additionally, Aranea is coming out in a month or 2 or 3 from the Final Fantasy 15 collaboration, I believe, and she also kind of dumpsters Varush very hard, and she's very good against like a lot of matchups in general. So not only is she more viable and more useful, not only against Varush, she is going to be there to kind of like smack him down as well. So you have to keep that in mind. Try not to face ice DPS in general. Try to face more magic damage based teams overall, and try not to face the slash resistance tank also, because then Varush is going to do not a good amount of damage. And yeah, that's basically my example setup of Varush. If you like this, please leave a like and or comment, and yeah, we come to the end of the video. Until the next video, peace out.